Whenever you're ready. 3, 2, 1, and go. So, this is East Memories of Celceta, the 4th game in the East series, technically the 3rd chronologically if you don't count the prequel. Every game in this series stars this red-haired swordsman adventurer by the name of Adol. If you're wondering why this cutscene is proceeding so fast, this is because the PC version of this game added a 5 times speed to cutscenes. This was originally a PlayStation Vita game, and the run, as of like a year and a half ago, was almost 3 hours. It's since been reduced to less than an hour on easy difficulty, and then like about an hour 8 on this difficulty. So, real quick, the whole premise of this game, Adol is an adventurer who kind of just goes to different regions and saves the world, basically, because something bad always happens everywhere he goes. Every game in this series is sort of him retelling like a story of an adventure he was on. This time, he is in a region known as Celceta, which is a very foresty region, and before the events of this game, he actually visited the entire region, but lost all of his memories, hence the title of the game. So anyone familiar with the East series from the olden days, probably the most famous game is East 3. For a long time, these games were just one-character action RPGs. We now have a party. I forgot to equip my short sword here. Anyways, this is a combat tutorial. This game takes place in sort of a 3D combat setting, and the trick to this game is you have a basic attack button, and you have 4 skills that you can bind to the face buttons. You also have additional party members who sort of have their own like strengths and weaknesses. This character here, by the name of Duran, his whole deal is he uses strike. There's a sort of pseudo-weapon triangle that doesn't get used a whole lot in this game. There's a decently quick kill there. The run doesn't use the weapon triangle very much, so the characters have very different purposes, namely their skill sets, which you bind to the 4 face buttons. So you see me using this skill called Rising Slash, where I swing my sword upwards. That's Adol's like main bread and butter skill. Each skill uses a little bit of SP, which is a meter noted by the little sundial on the bottom right. That is where you'll see all the skills that my characters have, as well as a little glowing yellow circle that is for a finishing skill. And there's a couple other combat mechanics I'll get into. Real quick, I'm going to attempt a quick trick here. So, throughout the game, I'll be picking up these memories, which kind of have their own little cutscene to them, and there's a cutscene viewer. But the cutscene viewer has this unique property where it sets my characters to a default position on the map, and right there, it actually sets my characters, sets my allied characters, who I can quick swap to right behind the door. So it's a nice little like 10-second skip there. Alrighty, so here's the first boss. You're going to see me doing a lot of flash guarding, so Delphi or Tux, you want to explain kind of the combat system of this game while I do this fight?
Yeah, so in these boss fights, you'll see Ghost generally be going for these guards. When you guard an attack, like with perfect timing, you will nullify all damage, and you will gain a critical hit on your next several attacks, which will allow you to deal a lot of extra damage. Right here, he's using his extra attack, which is a big cutscene move that deals a lot of damage, and if an enemy is stunned, denoted by that meter that's decreasing right now, it deals a lot of bonus damage. And that's the boss.
Yeah, ideally you want to kill him just as he's getting out of his stun phase. I don't really need to explain stun too much. That's about the only boss in the game that it matters on. Anyways, you're going to see me playing a lot as this blue guy here, because he has the fastest dodge roll in the game, because every character has their own different speeds. These little monuments that I go to that have the color on them, those monuments are actually warp points. The nice convenient thing about East games is they generally have warp functions in them. So the kind of setup here is we saved all the miners in this town, even though Adol doesn't really remember anything about himself. And the Governor General of this town asks us to map the country of Celceta, because the town we're in is kind of on the outskirts of her country, and they don't really know what the region of Celceta looks like, because it's very foresty. And so she tasks us with basically mapping the region of Celceta. And that's just where we set off on our adventure. There's going to be a lot of twists and turns along the way. Anyways, our first objective is we need to go to 2 choice landmarks. There's a giant tree in the center of the region, and a river on the far west side. You can go to either in any order that you want, but we're going to be going to the tree first because that's more broken, and like honestly we need to do it first anyways because it's just faster to do so. Alrighty, so this whole section is just a lot of overworld movement. So yeah, kind of just touch up on with this game. You see, I do a very dramatic dodge roll. I've likened this game a lot to Sonic the Hedgehog in some ways, for some reasons which will become more apparent later on, but there's a lot of dodge rolling, and you play as a blue character a lot of the time because he has the fastest roll.
Do you mind if I read a quick donation?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Awesome.
Actually, I don't mind.
We got one. Oh, thank you. We got one from TinyTim78, donated $16.32. Says, "Hi all, here's my contribution. Good luck, Ghost versus the Bee. Cheers."
Oh god, not
Thank
the
you very much
bee.
for your
Oh no,
donation.
not the bees.
Not the bees.
Not the bees. Bees.com.
So there's a strat here where I roll off to the edge of the river there because it's faster than swimming to roll. So we're heading off to the giant tree in the center of the region, but there's going to be a glitch that I will be attempting here shortly. It is one of the biggest tricks to this run that kind of got found by accident and then implemented into the run by a Japanese runner by the name of Ravi-tan, or Ravi-hina, or just Ravi as we usually call him, sometimes just Ravi-san. And Ravi has done a lot of work for this game. It's been kind of a two-man show for much of this game's lifespan. It's like me and one other person, and that one other person varies. But Ravi has done tremendous work for this category as soon as the PC port came out, and we just totally broke it. So in that, before I beat the first boss, I picked up an item called a Rotodroplet out of a treasure chest. Rotodroplet kind of functions like a Phoenix Down in this game. And okay. So that's going to be useful because right now I need to deliberately take a death. So we're going to have Adol die because he has lower HP and defense. And then we're going to switch over to our other character, and we're going to do a trick where we set our dead character to party lead, revive them, and then because he was in the water when he died, he respawned on land, and the game kind of thinks that he's still on a lower Z-axis position. So he's going to essentially... oh. Okay, there we go. He's going to fall through the floor, basically. And so I need to align myself along the other side of this bridge here, so that I'm on the seam and not in bounds. Alright, so we're going to load up a memory because that sets characters to default position. And then Adol gets put back on the ground. So we just skipped over this bridge by literally swimming under the floor. It only works whenever there's water underneath me. If there is no water underneath me, I will just fall and hit a kill plane and die. If you're unfamiliar with kill planes, basically a lot of games, like Sonic games, are known for this. If you hit sort of this invisible plane, it will just auto-kill you. So anywhere there's water, I will just rise to the surface. So I kind of need to carefully maneuver myself around it, but doing that saved about a minute, but more importantly, it set this game to a different story state. If you skip a cutscene via sequence breaking, all subsequent cutscenes do not play until you initiate a memory. So the cutscenes that are supposed to play here don't, and that just saves a boatload of time in this section of just like talking to NPCs and just kind of having to do this awkwardly placed stealth section. So here's a memory. This is going to set the game to the correct story state. Alrighty. So the last time Adol was here was before the events of this game. He met the village chief and his daughter and son. and we're just kind of talking to these people, getting familiar with the town. In the present, all the villagers, like half of the villagers in the town are missing, including the village chief's son, so strange things have basically been happening around town. Right now I just have to talk to a bunch of NPCs to move the plot along. Thankfully, these sections are pretty slow. Not slow, these sections are pretty quick and short. Alright, so the village chief wants to ask us some questions. Before he can do that, a bunch of strange masked men come and invade the village and nearly kill the village chief, so we need to follow them back to their, what we suspect to be their hideout. Gotta watch out for that deer. I rolled into that deer many times and lost time because of it.
The deer of time loss.
Praise be under the deer of time loss.
Alrighty. So, we just picked up our third character, the village chief's daughter. Her name is Karna, and she's unique in the 3D East games in that she has a ranged weapon. Not very many characters in the East series actually have ranged weapons. They're usually melee swordsman fighters. Her whole shtick right now is that she is higher level than everyone else by a considerable margin, so she's going to be my main damage dealer for the next little section of the game. Because the game really wants me to kill things, and we're never going to go out of our way to kill things except for one particular grinding instance, which is only present on the normal difficulty. So speaking of difficulties, usually we run East games either on like easy or nightmare. Easy because it's fastest and the difficulty settings don't change too much. On this game, the route actually is fairly different on normal. I have to actually grab equipment instead of just face bum rushing things. Also, the music in this game is really good. I think my game's volume is set pretty low. I'm gonna go ahead and just like boost that real quick. Kind of quiet even for me, and I use a few audio cues. There we go. So for some annoying reason, the right joystick determines whether my AI are aggressive or passive, and it's set to default. By default, it is set to passive, so I have to manually toggle it and remember to do so every run. Okay, one sec. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do when we enter this dungeon, which is sort of like the first serious dungeon of the game, is fight an encounter, and we're going to use a skill and then immediately use our finisher because the enemies are all grouped up right now. This should chunk each of them for half of their health. And I'm just going to spam skills here, and... Okay, good, they all stood in the tornado. Sometimes one of them likes to jump out, and I need to like be very, very careful here. So right there you saw me accidentally doing a flash dodge. I don't do it deliberately that often because flash guarding is generally better in this game. But sometimes I do it incidentally. Okay, this mob's pretty good. Alrighty. I even learned Mestre Spin, so I don't have to do it later. Okay, this is a really, really good mob here. These guys tend to not cooperate and be very slow. The nice thing about having range is I can kind of kite around and not have to worry about taking too many hits. So every character in this game has a overworld action. Karna's is she can sever suspended cables. Durin's is he can unlock locked treasure chests. We skip his tutorial. Adol can do a couple of things, which we are never going to do in the run other than when required. Like viewing memories, he has to be the one to view them, and then he can kill sacred beasts, but we're never going to do that.
We don't even collect the item that allows that to happen.
Yep. Yeah, so even though there's really only been 2 runners of this game actively, well, actually four in total, 3 Japanese and then myself, we have broken this game quite extensively, and you'll see that in this next boss fight. Oh god. Okay. Enemy aggro prevents me from doing overworld actions, so it's kind of annoying when it happens. But But yes, for anyone like who isn't really attuned to the East series, you can play any game in this series kind of out of order. There's some little lore that each game builds up on itself, but thankfully the games are rather self-concluding, and the stories are not like... Apart from East 8, where the story actually gets really solid, they're generally just kind of there to get you going. So I'm not going to talk too much about the story of this game, just kind of give a little context for what I'm doing here and there. But I definitely recommend this series. This is probably my favorite overall like series of video games. It's really fun action RPGs that have kind of evolved a bunch over the course of the years. Also, the soundtracks in this game are just, or in the series in general, are just really good. This song here, Harlequin's Temptation, is a remix of the earlier East 4 song for some of the dungeons. Alright, so this is Melter Bee. He is the bee that I've come to know and hate. Because his pattern is fairly random, and I need him to do a specific thing. Okay, this is not going to cut it. His positioning matters just as much as my own for this trick to work. And the camera, I have no camera control, and I really want to have the camera. I also don't want to get hit by that goo. Okay, he has not given me the spiral once. Oh boy. I love you too, B. Not once! Come on, B.
Yep. Where's the flip? Yeah! Where's the backflip? Give me the backflip. Do a flip.
What is going on? I have never seen him take this long to do it. Come on. Oh god. Well, this is bad. So now my character's afflicted heavy, so I can't do the trick. He's... Oh, now you do it. Okay, so I need him to do this flip attack. And I'm going to repeatedly guard it, which is a PC-exclusive trick. And this is going to allow me to exit the loading zone of this boss and just skip fighting him entirely. Yeah, it's a pretty busted trick. So the PC version... doesn't have the delay that the Vita version does on between flash guards. You can just channel them as many times as you want. This doesn't actually benefit you in a casual playthrough because it doesn't give you bonus SP the way flash guards are intended to. But on this version, it just so happens to be incredibly broken because attacks that knock my character into the air, I can store the momentum. And this is useful in several places, but with this boss, it's useful for multiple reasons. The first of which is I don't have to fight this boss, and if it goes well, like it's actually faster than fighting the boss. The boss is normally pretty quick. I need to get like 8 guards. I also need to be careful here because I can accidentally fall out of bounds. And we've set up a warp point out of here. So that was supposed to be the mid-boss of the dungeon. There's a much more powerful boss. Did I grab the extra rotodroplet? I did. Okay.
Yeah.
Just being careful. So we're not going to actually finish that dungeon because we've gotten everything we need out of that dungeon, which are the dwarf bracelet, a required accessory, and Karna in our party. So normally if you complete the dungeon, she leaves your party and you have to go do the other scenario without her, but we're going to attempt another sequence break here.
There was the bridge that he opened earlier.
So I need to like lure these crabs over into the water, and then I'm going to use the dwarf bracelet I picked up because it reduces my defense to 0, and I can basically take a death much quicker. Again, the character has to die while in water for this trick to work. Okay. I'm gonna save just in case. Okay, and then switch the dead character to the lead party slot. Heal with the rotodroplet, and he's gonna fall through the floor. And we're going to once again attempt an out-of-bounds trick. I could fail here and die, so I'm gonna save. Thankfully, this game has quick saving. And this is one of the only out-of-bounds areas that you can actually traverse. And we got it first try, which is really good. So, to get to the river on the west side, after starting the Giant Tree Ancient Burrow scenario, I have to complete that scenario ordinarily because there's a flag that just says, you have not completed this dungeon, go back and complete this dungeon. And the trick to bypassing this is actually going out of bounds and hitting the loading zone from the back end. So we've just skipped having to complete the dungeon, which is nice because it saves like 15 minutes. Anyways, so this area here, kind of forgetting the order, it's kind of like Lost Woods. The whole thing you have to do is you have to continually go down, like, if you're ever going uphill, it, like, resets you to the first screen. Alrighty, so, once again, we're going to enter another village where strange things have happened, only this time, instead of villagers going missing, the river has been poisoned. And so we're going to get arrested because Adol has been here, and as soon as he left last time, the river started becoming undrinkable, and fish started dying, so poison. So that's kind of the setup for this scenario. If you have any more donations, this would be a good time to read them. This part's pretty inactive. It's just flashbacks and talking NPCs.
Nothing as of now, but I just want to remind people that we're raising money for the Mega Man X Relay, and that the Star Tropics Bid War is the next incentive on the list. Star Tropics 1 beating Star Tropics 2, so if you want to influence that one way or another to see which one Terex will play, you can affect that one. And then Comet Striker, the bonus run Lambert Mode Showcase is the next incentive after that.
If for whatever reason I have a choice, it's for bonus run. Alrighty, so the whole thing that's happened here is the village chief became... the village chief, this blonde-haired man, became good friends with Adol the last time he was here, and so he trusts Adol's character enough to know that Adol didn't poison the river, but he wants us to, like, figure out what happened. And it turns out this village has this sort of sacred beast, which is a sort of dinosaur, ostrich-looking thing that has the most adorable babies. They're sort of the sacred beasts of this town, kind of part of their culture and religion, but it turns out that the beasts are poisoning the river themselves. Like, they live upstream.
Yeah, it's kind of like a self-defense mechanism that got triggered due to things that we don't do.
Yes,
We don't address.
there's somebody invading their lair, which is a dungeon that you're supposed to go to, but we're not going to because this game is super busted. Anyways, yeah, so we're just gonna leave the water hole completely poisoned. They'll figure it out eventually. Alright, so you'll notice once again we are on a screen that has water. This is actually really important. So the trick that allows me to swim under the floor, that doesn't actually require a character to die. Dying just is the only way to do it if I don't have more than 3 characters in party. Because this game has a 3-character party limit. So I despawn a character in water and that gets the job done. You can despawn somebody by swapping them out. And we're going to swim out here and then we're going to fall. And now, conveniently, later on in the game, I'm supposed to go to this cave here. And this cave has like a puzzle that you're not supposed to figure out how to do yet. But the loading zone happens to be there, so... Okay. Trying to not get in bounds. There we go. So, yeah, we just skipped into a dungeon 2 dungeons later than we were supposed to. And this dungeon has my absolute favorite song in the game, so I'm just going to shut up for a brief moment. Real quick here, I am supposed to have an accessory that lets me swim underwater, but I don't have that, so conveniently I can just go out of bounds and just maneuver out of bounds again to bypass soft locks. This right here is the other reason we have Karna in the party. If I didn't have her to do that right there, I would be soft locked. Yes, it is the good kind of out of bounds, because it's like It doesn't dominate the run, but it enables some major sequence breaks. And you just stay out of bound long enough for it to be interesting. So the Dwarf Bracelet is the other thing. We would be soft-locked and unable to proceed here. And now I'm going to attempt another little glitch here involving using the memory cutscene viewer. We're gonna go to get tiny, position ourselves about here, load up a memory, which is gonna set Karna to a default position. Okay, I wasn't far down enough. I always mess this up like at least once. And then she's going to hit the loading zone while returning to normal size. Now this is really important because the enemies in here give boatloads of experience, but you can't do hardly any damage when you're tiny. So these guys make for a really good grind spot, and because I'm not supposed to be at this dungeon until like level 17, this makes for a really consistent grind spot where I can one-shot every enemy here. And thankfully I get enough SP from using Karna's really powerful 40 SP consuming skill, Napalm Shot, to kind of area of effect kill all of these mobs, and then replenish just enough SP to cast it again. This is the only grinding section of the entire run, thankfully, and it's kind of a very inventive one in my opinion. So the goal is to get Adol to level 13. So there's a pretty wide variety of skills to this game. Casually, there's like a lot of fun with just kind of custom, like playing your characters how you want to. And I find all the characters in this game generally pretty fun to use, even though as a series veteran, the instinct is to just always use Adol. I recommend against this, and just like having fun playing whoever you want. Alright, so Karna is level, I got a little bit of extra experience, that's fine. So, real quick, we also are lacking on one other important area, which is that we don't have hardly any good weapons. So, all of my characters have default weapons, so I need to fix this right now. So, I'm going to go kill this guy, because he's going to prevent me from opening the chest. Because enemy aggro in this game is weird. Duran is going to unlock the chest, and we now have a decent quality sword. Also, if you're wondering, the item get jingle in this game sounds suspiciously like the one in Metroid. That is on purpose. Okay, let's switch Duran to the active party lead. For a long time, I thought it was just that they were melodically similar, but Yuzo Koshiro, who composed the first Ys game, outright said that he really liked the jingle from Metroid for the NES, and then borrowed it for Ys 1, which came out like 6 months after Metroid 1 for the NES. The things you could get away with back then. So we're gonna equip good on loose scale mail from Ozma, equip Adol with it. And okay, good. Alright, so this boss is gonna trigger immediately because cutscene glitchiness.
Well, it's that we skipped the previous boss, the B, and whenever there's a room with a boss or a forced encounter, it will load that boss immediately.
Yes.
Instead of getting the right trigger inside that room.
Yes, so instead of having
basically the way the game loads bosses is by saying a boss flag, a boss encounter flag, and then reloading the map. And so we kind of abuse this to many effects, including here just a little bit.
Yeah, so the fight happens immediately instead of having to walk up to it, and that's because anytime you leave a boss fight, the game is sort of set to a boss flag stage, and it's just anytime you do this, it will not resolve until the next time you enter a room that has a forced encounter, which in this case just so happens to be one that we have to do, but this is going to be extremely crucial for several sequence breaks later, because we're going to force boss fights on screens that don't initially have them much sooner than intended.
Another technique that Ghost used here is both simultaneous flash guard and flash move. That's actually the new feature in the PC version that is completely broken. The intended version is the way Ghost is using it here by creating doing the flash guard to get more damage, but also doing flash move to slow down the boss so there's more vulnerable time.
Yeah.
And therefore be able to beat the boss faster.
Oh god, that's bad. Okay, backup strats. Karna was not supposed to die there. Her level doesn't really matter at this point, but I really would have liked her to be alive because she can hit this guy much better. Okay. Alright, he's gonna slam down. This is gonna slow this fight down considerably. Because her throwing knives can actually hit the boss. While he's standing up. Thankfully, Adol's Rising Slash can hit him while he's standing up like this, but since Karna's dead, I kind of have to take this fight a little slowly. Okay. The dangerous thing about simul-flashing, which is the term used for whenever you flash guard and flash dodge something at the same time, is that sometimes an attack that you would ordinarily take no damage from by doing this will hit you. Ah, shoot. Well, Ozma, can you do it? Darn. Yeah, like so. He's low enough. I should be able to kill him. Well, I took a deb. This fight sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah, this is honestly one of the hardest fights in the run just because of all of the circumstances that lead up to it. Where
And the fact that we have like no
so much
armor.
game before this point, and the game really expects us to have a lot more gear, a lot more levels.
Yeah, thankfully, if you die against a boss, you just need to retry the boss. Ordinarily, if you die anywhere else, you have to like go back to your like your retry is like back to the last time you touched a warp monument, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. I have by default I have one healing item, so I'm just gonna pop it right now. I'm keeping track of my time, so we should be good on time still. I have a decent amount of leeway. This is partly the reason why we run on normal and not like a higher difficulty. Like, I'm pretty good with flash guarding in this game, that I think I could complete the run on a higher difficulty, but because this fight is so draining, and it doesn't really benefit too much from playing on a higher difficulty, it's just longer and more dangerous, and not really like any difference in terms of strats. You get the point after a while, because even on normal, this fight can take a little while. Alright. So yeah, you can see that Karna can actually inflict damage while he's standing. Oh, and she died again. Yeah, pretty much. Oh god. I almost died there.
oh no.
And I died again. Okay, well. Alright.
Yeah, this fight is extremely difficult.
Yeah, so here's the thing that sucks. Simul-flashing is... It's an art, not a science, in the words of my good pal, Kulo 2. Oh god, I completely missed it. Like, it's actually safer to do a, just a regular flash guard. Side note, this is the only East game with a normal guard. Later, like, 7 and 8, which also use this system, don't have a normal guard button, they only have a perfect guard. If nothing else, these games are known for their difficult bosses. I'm just playing bad, though. So... My take full responsibility for that. Okay. Alright, we're gonna pop another honey potion. There's one other boss in the game that's like really scary, but thankfully the game is a little bit more lenient afterwards, after this. Oh god. Thankfully I had a regular guard up there, because that would have been a lot of damage. Yeah, Oath is no joke. I switched characters there, because I did not want Adol to die there.
A cute mechanic in the Call of the East games is that your non-active party members cannot actually die. They take damage to 1 HP and then become inactive. They don't attack or anything, but they don't actually die. This can be abused in various ways.
By the way, correct me on my Mega Man lore, is Napalm Man's attack also Napalm Shot?
No, napalm bomb.
Okay. I was like, I have to tie this run to Mega Man somehow.
I mean, that's why we took it, because of napalm shot, obviously.
Glorious napalm. I love the smell of it. Okay, I'm not going to quote that this run. Whoops. Used East 8 system where you have to press both triggers to do a special. So this should finally freaking kill this boss. Okay, no it didn't. Okay. Okay, finally we're done with this garbage.
Yeah, what a boss. Ugh.
Dying to it didn't take so darn long. Alright.
Fortunately, killing the boss gives you 1 billion levels, so...
And full health.
And full health.
First try, PogChan. Alrighty. So the important thing about sequence breaking isn't even just that it skips stuff, but that allows me to skip stuff later. So the next area that I'm going to go to is a place called Highland. You can make all your Highlander references, you can even make your Suikoden 2 references. Basically, it is a hillside town near a hill where on the top of the hill is a god whose residence is guarded by perpetual thunderstorms. Now, this place is sort of sacred to this town, and Adol actually met the god who lives there while he was here, because he's done everything in this region. But basically that god has kind of, like, given way sometimes. Like, he's kind of losing himself to his darker side, and his darker side nearly kills Adol before the events of this game, and that's what causes him to lose his memory. But more importantly, to the events of this specific game, the people in this town think he's dead and make him a grave. Okay, real quick, I'm going to sell some stuff here.
Adol then loots his own grave normally, but we never get to that point.
Okay.
So we get to skip all the normal events that happen in Highland.
Alright, so I can't talk to NPCs here, by the way, because we're here earlier than we should be. I think I'm following the wrong route here. Okay, that's fine. Okay, well, I might as well, because, you know, marathon safety. So here we're going to buy a better set of knives for Karna, because she has one more fight where I really need her to do damage, and then buy 2 bitter potions just for safety. Anyways, so because this tower is so sacred to this town, we're not allowed to actually go back here. But because the game's set to a earlier story state, by virtue of us skipping all the cutscenes that are supposed to precede it, we can just skip ever doing anything in that town, and that saves like 10 minutes of just cutscenes and back and forth and going to Adol's grave. The important thing with that grave is buried with him was something called the Mask of the Sun, which is a ancient artifact, which is the dark, powerful sorcery MacGuffin of this game. And the Mask of the Sun is mysteriously missing. So that's bad. So we need to go up to the god on the tower to speak with him about that. But unfortunately, we are not lightning proof. Conveniently, one of the villagers followed us up here, and she's good friends with this one girl who's a good friend of the god. I do not want Durin in the party. Let's get. I do not want Durin out of the party because he's really good for movement. She conveniently has a sacred artifact which allows her to activate the lightning rods, which were set up on this hillside as a pathway up to the tower. So we need her to light some lightning rods here. Her name is Kalilika. She is my personal favorite character in this game. Like, yeah, Loli with giant mace is one thing. God, every time I stream this game, I swear I get a Final Fantasy X reference.
Every single time.
So we're gonna actually play dangerous here and hit this loading zone early. And in doing that, activates the first lightning rod early, which skips the lighting the first lightning rod on the screen and saves about 10 seconds. So we're going to play dangerous here. If we mess this up, the time loss could be like upwards of a minute.
Occasionally upwards of like.
Oh god, don't talk about that, Tux. I like to forget that run happens sometimes. And so we wait at the very end here and then hit kind of the lip of this ledge, which is close enough to the dungeon that in doing that, we are in the safe zone underneath the dungeon where we cannot be struck by lightning. Alrighty. Fortunately, the elevator is not working, so we need to climb our way up the old-fashioned way, which is the way I like it. Interestingly to note, if you're familiar with how a lot of RPGs work their dungeons, Ys is very light on the puzzles. You generally don't have to do a lot of puzzle solving, you just kind of have to go here, do this thing, kill these enemies along the way, which we're not going to do because enemies don't get much experience in most instances. Real quick, there's a neat little strat here, so I can't activate this lightning rod here, or this switch here, but in loading the memory, I can set the enemies nearby to spawn as intended, and there's a few frames after I exit out of the menu that I can activate this switch while they're there, and the aggro will not prevent me from hitting the switch, which is a nice little 5 to 8 second time saver. Just letting the music play because I like this dungeon theme. I like all the dungeon themes in this game. For anyone unfamiliar with, well, I assume that's probably a lot of people. I have a bad habit of saying for anyone unfamiliar with. These games are not particularly popular, unfortunately. They're underrated. But the Ys series has this dedicated sound team called Falcom JDK, and Falcom JDK is honestly one of the best sound teams in video games. All their soundtracks are among the best in gaming. They were one of the first studios to actually prioritize music in RPG game development, and we're actually one of the pioneers of action RPGs in general way back in the mid-'80s.
Yes, one of the cute little tricks you can do with like an original Ys 1 disc is that they used the Red Book CD format for the soundtrack. So you can literally put the disc in a CD player, and it will play the soundtrack.
Yeah, it's like the soundtracks in these games are really good, and they're also very open in terms of their distribution. You can find all of their music on Spotify. You can find their music on several digital outlets. So right here I'm picking up an item called Ceres Cape. It is just a piece of armor that adds a little bit of strength. I mostly want it for the defense, but the little strength bonus is very nice as well. And it's just conveniently sitting there. This dungeon has mimics, because every RPG needs mimics. I can avoid the mimics, thankfully, because they don't have icons on the minimap, which is kind of a dead giveaway. Alrighty, So before I go and fight the mid-boss of this dungeon, I need to go and do something a little cheeky. So off to the west side of this dungeon is the loading zone for the next section after this dungeon. And we're not supposed to be able to get to it, otherwise we get struck by lightning, but I can repeatedly save scum and just kind of inch my way towards it. And this
Right, when you
delays...
load it resets the time. There's like a timer for the lightning.
It doesn't
when you
reset it,
load-
it actually like messes with it.
Yeah.
Oh darn, I almost hit the loading zone. Oh, I hit the loading zone, come on. 3 lightning strikes is not good. I'll just save one more time. There we go. Alrighty, so by save scumming, I can easily bypass the lightning that prevents me from getting here. I'm gonna have to go back to the dungeon because several really good things happen there that would make the run faster in general anyway. So this is just setting up a shortcut to get there later. To get to later. But in performing this trick and being on the screen where getting hit by lightning causes my characters not to, hit the retry screen when I die. The next time I die to a boss, I will just warp back to the front of the tower. So I'm going to initiate the mid-boss here, but I'm going to deliberately take a death. And in taking a death, I'm going to be warped back out, but the game's going to be set in a boss state. So, Dwarf Bracelet just makes that much quicker. And we're going to warp back to the town. Now, in the town, there actually is a forced encounter that's not supposed to happen until after the boss fight. And in doing this, we are able to force this encounter out early. And this initiates sort of the scenario that happens afterwards. I'm going to use Galilica here because she's my highest level character. Use a Gravity Sphere, which is one of her main skills, to pull them all together and hit them for a bunch of damage with status effects. And all of the characters have like weapons that have a chance to inflict like, these little status effects. So ideally I want to hit them with Paralyze and Freeze. And pummel them as much as I can with Galilica before she gets really low on health. And then now they're all paralyzed, so they kind of move jittery, and I can just kind of kite them, hang around and just hit them from a distance. This is the main reason I picked up the weapon for Karna. Oh god, well, she died. That's not good. Okay, backup strat, this is why I have this. Okay. Situation resolved. Alright, so they're all dead, and then we're gonna meet the big bad of this game for the first time. We meet him earlier in the story, but we skipped that. We meet these 2 other characters, we skipped them. We find out that Karna's brother is evil, we skipped that. A whole bunch of stuff that has no context. Alrighty, but the main reason we do this cutscene after clearing Providence Tower early is it gives us this item called the Golden Ring, which normally we could only warp between monuments if we were standing next to them. But now we can warp between any monument anywhere. We can also only warp between like-colored monuments normally. So now we're going to fight the boss proper. This isn't because we have to, it's because he gives the greatest accessory in the history of RPGs. And my personal favorite thing about this game. It also makes the run a lot faster, for reasons that will become immediately obvious. So the strat for the mid-boss is actually to get behind the spheres here. I have to kill the first 4. We were supposed to fight the big guy later, but again, we don't have to. We'll skip past the dungeon itself. The strat here is to get behind the spheres and just kind of wail on them. Side note, AI-controlled characters in this game only do about 40% damage, so you're kind of counting on yourself to do the main damage. I want to get these flash guards here for the mini crits, and boss is dead. And I think I actually gold the split, which is nice.
Awesome.
Alright, so this is the Gale shoes. And there's a reason the split is called Gotta Go Fast on my splits. So we're going to go ahead and equip them real quick, and I'm going to do one little quick thing for safety. But as you can see, you run really stinking fast with these equipped.
Fast mode engaged.
Oops.
Kana mode engaged.
Yeah.
Kana's the fastest runner in the game.
Yeah, every character in this game has kind of a max speed. Karna is the fastest. She's 10% faster than Adol. Galilica is the slowest. She's 13% slower than Adol, and then everyone's kind of in between. But yeah, they just give you this thing that lets you ninja run at top speed. I don't need to buy anything. That's old route. So yeah, we don't have to finish the rest of that dungeon. We can just proceed on with the rest of the game. Alright, so we're going to view another cutscene here and just do a little bit more movement and setting up another warp point in a second. If you got any donations or any plugs, go ahead and read them off. Vesta? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking, trying to get the next runner set up.
Gotcha. It's all good.
Yeah, if you want to just keep going.
Okay. So real quick here, we are now kind of in the low swamplands, well outside of the intended region of the known part of Celceta, and we're getting into like the deep, murky parts of kind of the lore built up with this game, where it's kind of actually ties into the entire series, where you meet these characters called the Darklings, which are sort of like an ancient race of people who've kind of largely been ill-affected with ancient artifacts. It's something that kind of ties into the series lore as a whole. I definitely recommend playing the series and getting into that. Anyways, here we come to the town of Ganon, and we get our last playable character, this blue-haired, axe-wielding woman by the name of Frida, who is my personal favorite character in the game overall, mainly because she wields my all-time favorite weapon type, which is a halberd. She's also really useful for the next few bosses because she just has the best equipment right now. So, turns out they found the Mask of the Sun here, and they hid it behind this barrier. Of course, this blonde-haired woman by the name of Lisa, who's good friends with the god, will not let anyone have access to it. So I need to equip her with Hurricane Spin on X and Demonic Edge, because she's going to be my main damage dealer in this fight.
Also, you can see him switch his body from being there's a mechanic in the game where if you have two party members with the same type, you do extra damage, and if you have like all three parties of different types, then you get rarer item drops. But we don't really ever need item drops, so we really want that little bit of extra damage.
Yeah, it's about a 10% damage bonus for having two slash users. So conveniently, my two strongest characters both use slash, so it's a nice little benefit. I see a rip. Did the stream go offline or something?
Seems fine still.
Okay. Yeah, she does a crap ton of damage. She also has a party-wide buff to increase offense by an additional 10%, but her main skill is Cactus Drive. It's a sort of a ranged attack that she just shoots ice pillars out. Alright, so Lisa's kind of the worst character in the game. She breaks the barrier on the Mask of the Sun, and the big bad guy of the game kind of just was waiting there for her to do that. Oops, wrong button. And just snatches the dark, powerful thing to try and, you know, do his evil objectives. I don't even really remember them too much anymore. Something about reviving the pride of his ancient people. Anyways, so now we're into the kind of weird place where they have these like coral rocks, like deep into the toxic swamps. It's kind of a cool aesthetic area, even if this, in the old route, this was honestly my least favorite part of the run because it's just kind of not a lot interesting happens. Okay, I apologize if it's on my end. I might have just dropped some frames here and there. Oh yeah, I'm dropping frames. That's why. Sorry about that. Hopefully it'll get back to normal here soon. Oh, what the heck? My party warped, and I pressed the wrong button. Okay. So, right now I'm going to take a quick detour over to this section, which, quick note, I will be kind of going out of my way to run on land whenever I'm in swamp, because it's just faster to do so. I don't have to actually go to this part yet, because there's a roadblock here, but there is a warp point, which is faster to set up now than it is to come to later. What the heck? Alright. So you saw there was this weird coral-shaped rock blocking my path. I'm supposed to get an accessory to break that, and that is the last accessory that I will be getting. There's like 4 decent optional ones, and then 4 mandatory ones, even though we've actually skipped one of them, so I guess it isn't so mandatory because we're too good at video games. Now, in the unlikely event that you've played this game before, you might think to yourself, okay, he's at 56 minutes, the estimate's an hour 15. How is he going to finish the game? And the answer is, I'm actually really bad at this video. No, I'm just kidding. The answer is, this game is about to get a ton more broken after the next 2 bosses. Alright, so real quick, this area has the frog people. They're really, really annoying because if you're sprinting, they will hit you with their tongue and knock you out of your sprint. Conveniently, they're weak to slash, so I can take care of them really quickly. And here's a puzzle that actually uses the mouse, amazingly. I already know the solution. It's sort of just a simple weighted puzzle. I have to actually take my hand off the controller and use the mouse to do it. And that's the optimal way to do it. Alright, so we're going to fight the King of the Frogs next, and he's one of my favorite bosses in the game, so I want all of you guys to please indulge me for just a moment and just spam OS Frog, which is the appropriate emote for this fight. Or any other frog variants. Now, the really dumb strategy to this guy is he can be knocked over if you hit him right, and Hurricane Spin, which is Frida's main skill, keeps him kind of in a stun lock so long as I have the SP to use it. And one of my allies learned a skill, which is really good because that means that I can... Oh god, that's bad. Oh god, no! Ideally, I keep him perpetually in a stun loop, but it doesn't always work out that way. I need him to spit Frida out right now. And he keeps kicking me. Alright, this should keep him locked up. And my AI are kind of dumb and just dealing with random scrubs. Okay, there we go. Now he's dead. We might be going a little overestimate because this run has gone kind of poorly. Alright, so as an offering for us giving him mercy, he decides to give us the Beast King's Claws, which lets us break Coral Rock. This would be a really useful item for movement, but the Gale Shoes outclass it so heavily that it sadly doesn't get used. Alright, so now that that's done, we're going to switch immediately back and proceed. Now, there's these weird alien sausage-looking things. I have a much ruder name for them, but, you know, not on this stream. I only call them that on my own channel. You get 3 guesses, the first don't count. Anyways, if you sprint past them, they will yell at you, and this stuns you. The blue bar under their HP means stun. This never comes into play in the run, so I didn't mention it before, but yeah, it's a meter that once it fills, the enemy is stunned for a few seconds. Alright, so immediately into the next boss fight. And this guy's kind of a pain in the butt, but his attacks are really easy to guard, so... He's really easy to do a lot of damage to. Unfortunately, my AI, again, are really stupid in this fight. And he has these little orbs on the side that he'll, like, slide over to and heal off of. But my allies will, like, run after them. And I've taken more damage than I need to here, so I'm gonna just heal up. This is going really slowly for some reason. It's okay, that's why I picked up this self-headed Panacea. Oh my god, this is like the slowest mushroom fight I've ever had. Okay, so now he's going to enter his final phase here. Die. Okay. I don't want to burn this here, but I kind of have no choice. Okay. So now that I got that flash guard there, I'm going to initiate my finisher, and it's going to hit him twice for a lot of damage. And he should start doing this stupid charge attack. Very hard to predict what he's going to do when he does this, and cactus drives tend to miss. Thankfully, he will tire himself out.
This is the most useful location where Simul Flash happens. Because we need to have Flash move in order to hit the boss while it's not stunned and just running around like crazy.
Alright, so now that we're all done with that, we are going to head off to this place called the ancient city of Elduke, which is where these godlike beings called the Eldeen normally reside. After I go there, that's where the entrance of the final dungeon is. The big bad's going to enter the final dungeon, knock us unconscious, and then we're supposed to go to 2 other dungeons to get the counter artifact of the Mask of the Sun, which is the Mask of the Moon. Once we get that, we find out that it's broken, and then we need to go find a way to repair it. So we need to go head over to this place called the Colonial Laboratory, which is over this way. And so if you see that everything that I just mentioned, like, you're like, what is he talking about? Well, it's stuff that never happens. Because once you complete that dungeon, you get an item that allows you to kill ancient beasts. And there's one that's embedded in the door to the Colonial Laboratory that I have to be able to finish ordinarily. However, conveniently, this guy has an attack that knocks me upwards, which, since we can repeatedly guard to store that vertical momentum, we can just kind of just shoot over the door and into the dungeon. This is my second favorite dungeon theme in the game.
Normally this dungeon is like super annoying because it's an escort mission for the worst character in the game.
Yeah, nobody likes this dungeon both casually and in the speedrun in the old route because yes, that was the demon wall. That was the demon wall from Final Fantasy IV. He's back with a vengeance, but he doesn't advance on you.
In the old route, we actually took advantage of Kalilica being the slowest character because we wanted to be able to use the dash, but also need to not overspeed our escort D.
Yeah, so the character that we escort is Lisa, the blonde-haired girl who controlled the giant beast from earlier. And she cannot sprint, so we have to either dodge roll or move very slowly and just baby her the entire dungeon. But since we didn't initiate any of the cutscenes that are supposed to play beforehand, we also didn't initiate the cutscenes where she initiates the escort, so we can just sprint through the entire dungeon. And we're right now entering endgame. So I need to pick up a weapon because my weapons right now suck.
Here's the weapon for Adol. The weapon for Adol is a necessity for a later portion of the game as well.
Yeah, we have 2 more bosses left.
Another thing that the sequence break did is that it makes it so that the boss trigger for the next boss doesn't exist.
Yeah, I cannot fight I cannot initiate the next boss properly, so we're gonna have to get a little creative. Again, huge shoutouts to Robbie for finding out that this is a thing that can be done. So, if you're wondering why I save before the doors here, the reason is this guy can 2-shot me if I'm not careful. Okay, so again, we store momentum, get behind the door, and hit the loading zone. Alright, so we're very near the end of the dungeon, but the boss fight that's supposed to play here does not spawn. So, I'm going to set up a warp point here. I'm going to make sure I don't forget to equip Adol with his best stuff. And then we are going to warp back to a point that I have been dreading this entire run. So we never killed this guy, so we need to leave him alive and escape from this arena yet again.
Who's ready for more bees?
I am not.
Bees.
He's technically a hornet, but
Close enough.
semantics.
I mean, if you really want to argue semantics, he's also a bird.
Oh god, no. We're not getting into that. Alrighty, so we started the boss fight, and then just making absolute sure because in escaping from that boss fight, the boss fight that happens here is now forced to happen. And this guy royally sucks. Because he can do that. Okay, well, we're taking a death here.
Fortunately, he doesn't need to go through the effort of respawning the boss.
Yeah. Please attack me.
Wow.
Way to be rude, Soul Galba.
Come on, I guarded that. I wish I hadn't burned my Panacea. This sucks. This is what happens when you do things under level. Yeah, impossible game, sounds right. Okay. Do some safe strats here. So we need to kill his feet. And those will allow me to hit the hands, and then finally the head. Alright, so now he's finally down. Okay, and Adol's going to learn every skill that I have not acquired because we skipped so much of the game, and skills kind of happen like based on story. Further into the game you get, the better, higher power skills you can learn. But we're just going to stick with Rising Slash because it's kind of just really efficient.
Important thing about Rising Slash is that it also doesn't have very much cooldown or like active, so you can't actually guard while you're in an attack, and you'll get hit, and that's not good.
It's a very safe and very effective move. Also, because he's spamming it a lot, it builds extra attack very fast.
Yeah, I never mentioned that, but extra attack in this game. Oh, come on, Frida. Hit the freaking guy. I don't want to have to do a force cycle. Oh my god, my AI is stuck in a bad loop. Lovely. Okay. Okay, now we should finally be able to finish him. Okay, there we go. Since it's an AI learned a skill, we should be able to do the finishing blow. Come on, 3 cycle, let's go. Yes! Just barely enough to do a 3 cycle there. Okay. Sorry, we're gonna probably be like a 116, 117 here. I just have had very, very bad luck and some very bad timing on some of the more unforgiving fights. Alright, so now you might be thinking, well, we just did a boss. Why do we have to go force the B again? Well, it turns out there's a unique thing about the final dungeon. So in clearing the Colonial Laboratory, boss. I'm stuck against the wall. Let's just try and move him. In clearing the Colonial Laboratory, we can now enter the final dungeon. I didn't get enough height off of that? This trick is so finicky. Okay, the camera's not cooperating. Okay. If you mess up where you land, your characters will hit the kill plane and die, so... You have very little space to work with, and it's why you need a very particular camera angle to really hope to get this trick. Impossible trick. There we go. No more bees. Bees are done. Alrighty, so now all the endgame cutscenes, as well as the cutscenes that are supposed to happen here, happen accordingly. And we're gonna enter the final dungeon, but on the final dungeon's very first screen is a very weak enemy mob that is the start of endgame, so we're just skipping the entire final dungeon. Now, there is one last thing to do. So, in the final dungeon, you face off against the big bad of the game, as he's kind of fused with the ancient artifacts of the world, and kind of become really powerful. We take the Mask of the Sun back from him, but unfortunately, his phantom still remains, and it will not stop trying to fight us until we get rid of the Mask of the Sun. So, like any good hobbit, we're going to go chuck it in a volcano. So this is just the walk up to the end game. Okay, we got good cycles. I tend to get really bad cycles on this part, so then those just waste time because I have to wait for the lava to pass. Alright, so now we're coming up
I wonder
on
what that health bar is.
So, the escort mission that happens in the previous dungeon kind of gets forced here because they have to force it somehow.
So talk about some karmic retribution.
So she kind of just gets destroyed this fight. But conveniently she can also heal us for a lot of damage, so this fight's kind of a joke.
She also infinitely heals herself.
So there's no risk of her dying. I don't think she can even die on Nightmare.
Yes, this is the final boss. It is a one-on-one duel against a character that has very similar skill set to you.
It's a neat little fight, even if it's a little bit too easy.
It's kind of intended like a novelty fight, a novelty duel fight. The series like introducing one of these in most of the games. In Oath of Forgotten, it's Chester. In 6, it's Geist. Here, it's the actual final boss. Here, but like the final boss that's meant to be hard is the one that's at the end of the final dungeon.
Which is kind of unusual because usually like Geist and Chester are like the hardest boss fights in those games.
Yeah.
Oh man, he's tunneling on Lisa. I've never seen this happen before. There's your that's never happened before. Because he normally tunnels after me. Okay. That was a pretty slow fight, but you got him in the end. Alrighty, so we're gonna go check the Mask of the Sun into the volcano, and that is gonna be when time is. Apologies
He's
for
never
going.
even got his ultimate skill off, as far as I can tell.
Alright. So time. 1:17:35. Not a great run.